And I kind of feel like C.S. Lewis, hell is a door that's locked from the inside. Like you said, separation from God. I don't think we have any idea what he's got in store.
I love that so much. That for me is where all hope resides.
I mean, do you think you're going to go to hell for just loving everyone? Probably not. I mean, the most miserable people I know here are at the extremes of something that's a maybe. I love the people that I don't agree with too much to like put my flag too far in the ground. I don't know. But I know.
I want to just hang out with you all day. You and Michelle. I feel like what we go through in our lives are meant to help us find joy and find peace. And we go through our lives trying to figure out ways to undo that. Man, you get older and you start realizing, I don't want to waste another second, worrying about crap that means nothing.
Welcome to the Good Grief, Good God show.
Las Vegas guy. This is a guy that wrote a book, then you titled the song after, and he didn't give him credit. And I will say this, you didn't give him credit on Jay Leno or was David Letterman or something, and then the guy wound up killing himself.
I wasn't aware of him at that point. I didn't even know. One of the co-writers on that, and I still don't even know whether the co-writer knew him or not, because he has a history of being pathological.
I was going to say, I've had artists that we're working with, and they'll do a showcase, and they'll start talking about, I wrote this song with so-and-so, I wrote this song with the Warren Brothers. I'm like, nobody cares. You can't cover all the ground. I just felt like it was so unfair to you. Anyone being.
It was a bad thing. And
so.
When you're a kid that's like, and I wasn't a kid then, I was 29, but when you're raised and your parents say, be a good person, everything that happened around that challenged all of that. I'm like, but wait a minute, how did this happen? I feel like I'm a good person. I'm constantly like, everybody in the room got exactly the same amount of publishing splits, whether they were, changing the toilet paper roll or, and how did this happen? And then somebody, dies in the meantime. And, I don't think there's anything that can prepare you for what life can throw at you, even if you're a good person, even if you're a shitty person. If you're a feeling person, then it all matters. And that took me into the darkest place. But the reality of it is, somebody doesn't kill themselves because of one thing, but I made it mine. I made it mine.
Oh, it's so unfair. And I don't get 29's still a kid to me now, especially.
Yeah. Well, it is.
That was just, I'm like, oh God, that's so unfair that you would feel any part of that, much less, as a parent. And I know, because we go through the things, I don't feel guilt, but it takes work to not feel guilt.
Yeah.
I know that we did a lot, and I know that we loved him and as much as we could have. And I know that he knew he was loved, and he would tell us, this is not your fault. I had a great childhood. You guys are great parents. This is not your fault. And I'm genetically, he definitely got some of my genetics.
Yeah.
Michelle comes from a drinking family.
Not that I'm a therapist, but I'm glad that you know that with your heart and your body, because I think those are the things that for me are hard to get over. Or I still reflect on things that are so far back in the past. That I wish I could go back and just,
Oh, hey, I'd take another swing at the plate.
Yeah.
I would certainly change things just out of circumstance.
But you wouldn't be who you are or where you are. And the same with me, and I think, one of the things that when I was going through breast cancer and really just like, what happened? This guy who actually is he's very intuitive. I wouldn't say he's psychic, and he would say, don't ever call me a psychic. He's like, everybody is intuitive. It just depends on how much you really want to know, right? So he's an acupuncturist in New York, but he was kind of like a life chiropractor for me. And one of the things he said, because I think what we do is we anesthetize ourselves throughout life. And especially as Westerners, we go through life with this belief that if we just stay busy and don't think about it, or just, don't wallow in it, it'll eventually, and he's like, no, unless you can hold an emotion, that is the gateway to enlightenment, is holding that emotion. And there was a year there where I did not pick up a pencil or a journal, a guitar. I didn't go to the piano. I wouldn't allow myself to go and make it better. by being clever or productive or any of it. And
Did you think that was good? You needed that?
I had to do that because I'm like a person that I've shucked and jived my way through life. You know, I decided that my parents were unhappy when I was little, and if I could make them happy by being perfect and funny and cute and the most talented and highly successful, and then I'm out playing for millions of people around the world, and I'm still doing that. I'm like, love me. I look how talented I am, how funny, how look what I can do. I can play this, I can play that. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, you're not engaged, you don't have your stepkids, you're not going to have children. You are old, Britney Spears on the radio, and you're about to turn 40, and you're facing your mortality. So now what are you gonna do? Well, you can go write another song, but that's not gonna make all that stuff. Mm-mm. And there's a certain point where you have to like hold the emotion and be mad and be sad and really hold it. And because if there are things that you want and desire, unless you can sit with the loneliness of not having it or with the pain of letting go of what you have had, all of those things, then you can't get to the point where you see light in your life, you know? And I mean, I look at you and I go, that's where you guys are. You've held the emotion, you've dug deep, you've grieved it. Doesn't mean grieving stops. Mm-hmm. Grieving becomes part of something you do in order to just keep sweeping. And that has been, and that actually at that point where I quit going to all the things I could do and just sat with being who I was, that's when all of a sudden I have a baby boy. And I felt like writing a song, and that song was just from him and me, and it was called God Bless This Mess. I mean, but it's like Abdi said, you don't get it until the second you get it.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that's part of why you are who you are and able to have both characters and be both characters. By the way, and you're not Kiss putting makeup on before your show. I know that you're just the same person because you're funny when you're playing and you're funny when you're not, and it's all there. But part of that thing where you strip it down and go, who am I without this? And I will say this, whatever this business and job is, I've been a little outside of it. We're talking about some friends of ours before that are starting a record label thing. I don't love music as much as some of I love it. I'm so grateful. I really love like soulful things, and I love playing and I enjoy playing it. But I don't love music as much as a lot of my contemporaries. They listen to it constantly, and they listen to new stuff and old stuff and covers, and they dig in and they want to write something like this. And I love what I love, but when I go home, it's done. I'm good with it. Silence. I tell you what, Sage and I visit in the car a lot because I'm like, no radio. Just gonna look at the sky and drive. And I spend time with my dead son in the car, dead silence. Sounds a little weird, but it's awesome.
Silence is your friend. I mean, when I was really with both my boys, I'm a big meditator. Meditate in the morning, meditate in the evening. My now 16-year-old, when he was younger, would have trouble sleeping, and I gave him these meditation speakers called Now speakers. Do you know those?
No.
Go on Amazon.
I need to get them.
They're amazing. They're only 3 minutes. They're tonal, and he would put them on at night, and they quiet the mind, but they also, because they're tonal, and we know what music does vibrationally, very soothing. And I think just even cellularly, music can be. But I look at people who love music that are songwriters, and for me, I don't have that relationship. I listen to music as a learner, as somebody who I can't enjoy it without analyzing it. And now I'm at a place in my life where the reason I love music is the gratitude I feel with getting to share it with my 60-year-old friends on stage. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's more of it's less about the chords and it's more about the experience. And
we're at the exact same spot.
Yeah.
Like, you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
But I'm going to tell you something.
I'm just saying in our head and heart.
On my way here, literally, like coming down Concord, I was like, really want to start volunteering somewhere. Like, music is so like, I don't know, man. It's a gift, and I keep unwrapping that gift, and it keeps like, it's something new and cool. But for me, my soul is like, I need to serve because, man, I don't know.
No.
I mean, at a certain point, don't you feel like you're just being called to do something that's like
100%. And this music is now more of a platform.
Yeah.
Than like, if it wasn't for music, I never would have met you, and we wouldn't be sitting here talking about God and grief and things that I would have thought, well, I want to be Joe Rogan and talk to MMA fighters if I'm going to do a podcast, or if I'm going to play music, I want to be, I want to be Sheryl Crow, and I want to be on stage every night. But the truth is, like, God's plan for me just wasn't what I wanted it to be. And thank God, because the truth is, left to my own devices, I'm kind of a selfish prick.
I mean, I'm serious. I'm like all about the infinite possibility. I'm like, God, I am so glad you know me better than me, because I would have fucked it up like 15 times just on my way here. You know what I mean? And I find peace in that. I find peace in, as long as I can get out of my own way, at least 10% of the time, I'm on the right path.
Did having breast cancer put you more in that mode of like surrender? Like, I don't have so much control. I'm not going to live forever. Was there
freedom think so. I think, I mean, and listen, I do not like who I was when I was involved with Lance, and everyone on this planet is lovable and deserves to be loved. And my problem with Lance was me. I did not like who I was. And when I came out of that and I had breast cancer, the two of those together made me revisit who I was. I have a philosophy about life that you have all these events that happen in your life that serve to help remind you of who you are. And I just got so far away from it. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't have any recollection of who I was born as, just essence wise. And
you ever think that you earned the breast cancer?
I think it saved my life. I tell people all the time, I don't recommend having to go through trauma to get to this place, but sometimes it serves you, and sometimes it is the thing that your life in a weird way cries out for in order for you to get back to who you are. And
I wish I could have all of the effects of this without losing my son.
Yes.
I would love to go back 20 years and go, man, what couldn't you have been able to accomplish? And I don't know if it even looks like accomplishment from the outside, but the kind of person you could have been if you could take yourself. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
No. And it's like I said, or like Abdi said, I give Abdi the credit. You don't get it until the second you get it. And when you get it, you get it.
Yeah, and you don't let go of it.
And you don't let go of it. It is a part of your fiber. And who could have predicted our lives,
I mean, it's funny because the music business isn't a talent contest, but it's not. It's just not. And we don't even have to go into that. But like in my purview of you are the talented one. I mean, to what I like to listen to, whatever. And yet you have the best outlook. And by the way, I have some friends that are huge in the business that are great friends and great people. I'm just putting you at the top of that heap because I really do. Just really, and maybe it's the fact that I think that I love music and I love playing it, but I'm not like, it doesn't define me. It's not like, I'm not doing it all the time.
Yeah.
This is the last time I'll talk about music all day,
I can talk about it all day. I mean, my feeling about it is what you're saying is I feel exactly the same, except with regards to me. Like, I look at my life and go, okay, it's not a talent contest. And what kills me about it is I know people that are so like far more talented than me, far more. You do look at it and you go, why me? Because and this is not to get a response, but I'm not the greatest player. I'm not the greatest singer. I'm not even the greatest writer. I mean, I'm not the greatest at anything in comparison to people that I've come up with, people that I've played with, people I've written with, people I look at and go, God, I wish I'd have written that, or I wish I could play like that, or I wish I had that. It isn't a talent contest, because if it was, I would definitely not be here. But all that to say,
you're not the fastest player and you're not the highest singer, but music is subjective. It's not a race, and it's not a football
right.
game.
That's it. All that.
It's really up to the people. But maybe it's just what I like, but I don't give you that as some bullshit, because it's not. I mean, like it's.
Well, I mean, all that to say, I mean, I don't know why I've had this life, and you know, I worked with Olivia Rodrigo recently on a couple of occasions, and she's 20. I mean, when I was 20, I was waiting tables, you know, and I was sleeping through classes, and I mean, it's weird. I was like a fully formed person, and then my life changed, and now I'm back to the person that I was, but I get to play music. But literally, I'm just like, I'm a mom, and I'm trying to figure out where to go volunteer. And, you know, it's just a weird life. Life is weird. You can be all kinds of things all at once, but the only thing we can be is true to ourselves. And we spend our whole lives trying to figure out who that is. I mean, that to me is like what is so mind blowing, is that you spend your whole life trying to figure out, well, okay, I was raised by these people, but I'm not, and I do this, but I'm not like, and the only place you can find yourself is in those silences, you know, and Sage is still teaching you, you know, and I look at it and go, that is what that's so much bigger than a book with parables and tomes, and it's bigger. Yeah. You know, it's just bigger.
It's bigger than we can even, fathom. And when I was raised super like Southern Baptist but charismatic, so we like spoke in tongues at a Baptist church. So evangelical Baptist. So it was but it was really
double
intense.
Whammy.
So we were judgy and crazy, and like they laid
and see,
hands
we
on
were Presbyterians. They were like, you just do what you want. If you want to drink and play cards,
I
just
was
come
gonna
to church
say,
every once in a while and write a check. Okay.
Presbyterian's the last denomination
wearing.
I can't really find anything wrong with. I mean, they seem to have control of their one glass of whiskey, and they'll sit and pontificate on some theology.
Oh yes, we read, you know.
Yeah, the smarter, more sophisticated version of
my grandma's like, we're the frozen chosen.
Yeah. Not a lot of fireworks when it comes in. I was that kid, and then whatever happened, and then I look back, and on a day when I can experience the pain and let it, and then leave it there, I can look back and go, well, you just said it. You said, I'm back to the person I was back then. I'm like, okay, man, it's kind of hard to remember 18-year-old Brad, but it's been a crazy run. Like, we did it in a way. And the idea that I have someone over there that's just as important as anyone here to me keeps me from being afraid of anything.
Being afraid of death.
Not afraid of death. Not at all. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit afraid of like physical pain, because although I try to put myself through it as much as I can, I'm cold plunging and whatever I can do to like get okay with pain. But if it was a door, I'd walk through it right now. I'm just not afraid. And that only comes with losing someone really important to you.
And I, you know, I want to go one step further and say it also comes from losing yourself. I mean, and letting go of all the attachments. You know, I remember I used to know Glenn Campbell, and then being around him when he. Yeah. I mean, there's something really awful about losing your memory, like what's happening with my mom. But there's a certain point where you don't have attachment to anything, and like my mom right now is in a place where she's pretty happy. And I think part of it is that some of those attachments are just not there anymore.
All of them.
You know, all the things that you associate that are ego, you associate with who you are. It's like the Eckhart Tolle, the New Earth or whatever. All the things that you associate who you are with, when you start peeling those away, there's much more peace about being on the other side, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've hated flying. I've flown all over the world hating to fly, you know? And then when I got sober, 18 years ago. It got better. You know, I'm like, okay.
Were you afraid of flying?
Oh, we had a flight when I was like 20 years old. A bunch of bands from Tampa, which is where I'm from, flew to New York City, and it was called the Orange to Apple tour. And we were going to play like CBGBs and, you know, some other places in New York. And it was like 5 bands. And it was a United Airlines flight or one of those old airlines. And the plane just free fell at some point. Like all the masks came down, the drink cart hit the ceiling, the flight attendant fell over my lap, and our bass player was sitting right there, and she's screaming at the top, "Oh my God, we're going to die." God. It just free fell sideways. And my dad was an air traffic controller and a private pilot, and he loved aviation, whatever. And so we had flown in like little Cessna planes, and just never thought about it. And for like 22 seconds, probably, I knew I was going to die. And I was not in a place where I knew where I was going or whatever. I was in my 20s. And so from that flight on, and it's funny, we had a 25-year reunion with those people on that flight about 5 years ago. And all of the people on that plane that were on, I mean, I talked to 20 guys, and all of them lived the rest of their lives a little bit afraid to fly. It was a really crazy flight. So Brett and I were both we're on Australia. Like I took so many pills on the flight to Australia that I almost shit my pants. I mean, I was so terrified. And then I got sober. It got better. Now, are you kidding me? I hang out, sit on the wing. Michelle and I kind of laugh, and I actually pray for. I could see someone really nervous. We had a really bumpy flight, and just people were like, and I was like, God, give them comfort. I know what they're coming through. And that is so not me to like pray for someone else instead of laughing at them, being happy. But those things are gifts. Those are gifts. And you said Sage is your greatest teacher. He was my greatest teacher. When he was here, he's so much like me. And he continues to be my greatest teacher there. And there's a gift every day that he's left us with if we grab it. And one of those things is like, we're just not afraid of death. Yeah. And, in fact, Michelle and I were both, you better not freaking die and leave me here. I mean,
well, see, that's the only thing. That's my only attachment, is my kids. Because I'm not afraid of it.
Do you have any paranoia? Do you live with that paranoia?
I don't. Actually, it's funny, when I was on the Jackson tour, we were flying so much that I started feeling afraid of flying. And our sound guy was one of the survivors from the Leonard Skinner crash. Go sit next to him. I was like, it can never happen twice. He
wasn't afraid to fly at all either, by the way. They got Ken Peton that was on the Skinner flight. He died recently, but he was like, oh, this never happened again. See, I would have never gotten on a plane again. Sure.
Really? I don't have those fears. It was kind of funny. We watched Levi. Levi's my very literal one. He's the one who's like, Mom, do you know anybody that's gone to hell? And I'm like, besides your grandmother, probably not.
13 or 16?
13.
13, okay.
He's my accountant. Yeah. He's very literal, right? Yeah, and I know that you go to school and you learn about Jesus, and the Bible's really comforting. And he's like, and I said, I don't believe in hell. I believe you can have hell. God, and the Bible says God is love, and if separation from love is, separation from God is what I think we can have here on earth, and anyway, we were watching this, I think it was Nat Geo. We love all the science channels, and they had these paranormal TV shows where you could watch people watching like ghosts move through their house. And there was one where these two guys, you could hear them. It was probably in Iran or Iraq. They were like, they see this ghost moving, and you hear them go, Allah, Allah. And it had subtitles, and it said, loving God, creator of all things, God of love. And it was all Allah, Allah. And it was in Farsi. And he was scratching his head just going, who is Allah? And I was explaining, there are religions that have been around for 3,000 years before Christianity, blah, blah, blah. Allah is their God. And he's like, well, do they not believe in Jesus? And I said, well, it's sort of like you and me. I was born to a Christian family. You were born to me. I'm a Christian. They were born to Islam or Muslim or whatever they were born to. So they believe in that. And the next day on the way to school, he's like, well, Mom, what if we die and we find out that they were right and we were wrong? And I was like, buddy, that's not God. I mean, I know that the Bible says you have to love Jesus in order to get to heaven, but you will ask all the questions just like you have, just like I have. You will go through periods in your life where everything you believed in and were raised to believe starts to come into question, and you will go on a truth-seeking mission, which may last the rest of your life. For me, I've come to a place in my life, I believe that God loves us enough to save us over and over and over again. And, you know.
Okay, so I mean, first of all, Levi's my hero. That's a great question, because I honestly go over that. And I always say that about just within Christianity, just the different denominations. I mean, surely, I think he's so probably frustrated with that. God's going, I'm going to make sure none of y'all are right about anything. I know,
especially now when Christians are acting like such meanies.
Love is our key. We head towards that. And, you know, like I would ask my mom, what about the billion people in India that never heard of Jesus? And the 17-year-old that starved to death? What he never heard that. Well, and they tried it. Well, before he died, and then they, you know, this, you know, everyone that died that means something to us had something happen right before they died. Like I don't know that I was taught this directly, but when I was a kid, I assumed, and we assumed in our religion, that if you committed suicide, you went to hell because your last act was murder and all, you know, whatever. Well, now I'm with a group of dads that have lost children. There are more than one suicide in that group. Are you kidding me? Like the God that I know, who had a worse day than the person that had to take their life? Who had a worse day than that? And we're going to teach our children that person that had that terrible day is going to be condemned. I just can't buy into it. I know God more than I ever have, closer than I ever have, in a more real way. And that's just not who he is. He's not. You know Ashley Cleveland?
Yes.
She has a great thing when she was in the hospital bed after she had her daughter. And she heard a voice where God said to her, I'm not who you think I am. And I think it's one of the greatest things I've ever heard, and she was raised with the guilt of religion or whatever. I'm like, that's just it. That's who I have come to know, a God that is not who I thought he was. And I kind of feel like C.S. Lewis, hell is a door that's locked from the inside. Like you said, separation from God. I don't think we have any idea what he's got in store. And, you know, my mom was convinced that when 1999.
I love that so much. That for me is where all hope resides. You know, I'm not who you think I am. We got to quit thinking about, you know, and listening to other people. And there's such freedom. And I just tell my boys, look, all you have to do in your life is look around and ask, where can I help somebody? Yeah. That's it. I mean,
if you think you're going to go to hell for just loving everyone? Probably not.
Right.
Any kind of hell. Even here, the most miserable people I know here are at the extremes of something that's a maybe. You know what I mean?
Right.
Either far out here or the other way. Both things being a maybe. And I'm like, man, I'm just not going. I love the people that I don't agree with too much to put my flag too far in the ground. I don't know. But I know.
I want to just hang out with you all day. You and Michelle. I want to stay here.
Here, move
in this fabulous, unbelievable house. It's so beautifully decorated. No, it's true. I feel like what we go through in our lives are, unless we're missing it, are meant to help us find joy and find peace. And we go through our lives trying to figure out ways to undo that. And man, you get older and you start realizing, I don't want to waste another second, worrying about crap that means nothing,
Well, and what's worse than being, I'll say your age because you're the rock star, but being our age and trying to be something that you used to be, or trying to be something that you're not, or that you never were. Great saying, a friend of mine in AA that says, you're not who you think you are. You're not who they think you are. And you're most definitely not who you think they think you are. And I'm like, that's it.
I love that.
I just stopped.
Can we just go get a couple of guitars? Can we just write that right now?
Yeah, you're not who you think you are.
And we'll cut him in.
Yeah.
We'll cut him into the lyrics.
Absolutely. He's kind of a genius guy. Steve Lee. I'll give him a little on-air credit.
Okay.
It is absolutely not just the first time. So 3.5 years I lost my son. I don't fucking care what anyone thinks. And it's not in a bad way, not in a script, because my road was forked very clearly because I'm an alcoholic. Because I always I've said it on here before. I had a deal with God. Like, you take one of my kids, I'm drinking again. All bets are off. And it just never occurred to me. I'm like, especially the way he died and fentanyl and you know, him struggling with drugs and alcohol himself. I'm like, well, that's not what I'm choosing. So my other alternative is full swing this way. And like I said, the first time I've ever done anything that didn't have a personal gain, it's just the first time I just don't care what anyone thinks. And the truth is, I'm probably more well thought of than I ever was when I cared. You know, the irony.
And you don't even care about whether you're more well thought of. I think, you know, I did during COVID, I went down the Eckhart Tolle rabbit hole. The Trump years really did a number on my family. And there was a point where my loving, close-knit family had trouble being in a room together. And also COVID did as well, like the whole mask thing and the whole, just all of it really brought out some demons. And I wound up sort of like, while my kids were home doing their schoolwork, I was like folding laundry and listening to Eckhart Tolle. And there's so much truth in the in that book. I couldn't read it because it was just too many big words. But listening to him and just doing little bits and pieces of it, there were so many things that reminded me that so much of who we are is based on what we believe and what we believe about ourselves, and being right and being quiet is such a game changer when it comes to that. And also being able to listen and not speak, and listen and not judge. And all those things are really hard to do because it's our nature to do it. But the freedom that you're talking about not caring, that is your releasing ego. And man, I really firmly believe that the more ego we release, the more we let divinity saturate, which is no easy feat.
And in any given argument or conflict, the louder, angrier person is usually wrong. And even if they're not wrong based on the fundamentals of it, I'm like, I come from a fundamentality that I basically agree with,
Yeah.
But I'm not obsessed with any of it. And I'm willing to be wrong. Like, I'm not going to get to God, heaven, whatever. And if he says, if I get to heaven and God says, hey man, my name was Pete the whole time, it wasn't Jesus. I don't know what these people are talking about. My name's Pete, call me Pete. I'm not going to be, oh my God, I can't deal with it. And if Hitler and Jeffrey Epstein walk by me, and I'm not going to freak out because I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah.
It's just not up to me. That's a freedom. And we've held on to things that we're so sure about. And by the way, I say probably not you and I so much, but religion have interpreted the Bible, which has been retranslated many, many times to fit what we think. I just have to be honest. I stopped.
Oh, I know.
I stopped. I still read the things that I feel like talk to me.
Yeah.
What Jesus said is pretty stellar. Like, you can't really go wrong there.
Yeah.
But I'm not delving into like the Old Testament stuff where Abraham was going to kill his son, because my mom and I had the big talk about that the other day. I said, and she's talking about how much she's arguing with a Jewish, very close friend of hers about that point. I said, Mom, you should just let that one be. Well, no, and he was willing. I said, let me ask you this, Mom, would you slit my throat if God told you to? And she said, well, I mean, what do you mean, God? I said, if God told you to,
Well,
you said that God
mean?
told you told me God tells you to do things all the time. And she kind of had to stop. I'm like, if you wouldn't slit my throat, then you can't back up Abraham on this. And if you would slit my throat, then you'd be incarcerated. I don't know if that's one of those questions I'm going to have for God there. I'm not going to, that's not the hill I'm going to die on with a Jewish friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, we have gotten so argumentative about things that would, and by the way, I'm probably argumentative about being not argumentative. That's my new argumentative thing.
See, my 13-year-old is that this is where he lives. I mean, he needs to understand, like, literal, like, he's the one that said, we're studying the Old Testament, and Mom, God was so mean. And I'm like,
I really need to hang out with that kid.
Yes, yes, you do.
I mean, really.
Yes, you do.
He's a deep thinker.
He's a deep thinker. He is. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that I just look at my kids and go, I don't know everything, but I got a list. I don't know.
Mosquitoes.
What? Why? What purpose do they serve, God? Just wondering. You know, little things. Dementia, really?
Yeah. Losing a child. I mean, I guess we're supposed to lose. Here's the crazy thing about losing a child and coming to terms with death, like in general. Michelle's grandfather was 96, 97. And he died about a year after Sage. This little tiny, beautiful Italian man, never owned a home, the sweetest, most giving. We had to stop him from giving all of their money to anyone that would stop at the door with a bucket. You know, he would just give anything. The sweetest man ever. Whatever heaven has to offer, he's got the best of it. He was that dude. And Sage had died, you know, a year or so before. And I was so happy when he died. So happy for him. I was like, yeah. Wow. Like he's in it now. Yeah. He is the pimp of heaven right now. Like and I thought in this little blip that we're here, he and Sage are the exact same amount gone. Like they're both gone. I'm still here, but those guys my dad died when he was 60, 20 something years ago. He's as gone as my son. I immediately, by the way, felt a lot of my dad when my son died. I felt him very strongly. Man, I think about because we talk about songwriters all the time. I'm not sure it's going to be a job for the next generation. It's just streaming changes the whole deal. It's just maybe not be. And I'm like, man, this is a blip. Like rock and roll music, country music especially, modern country music where songwriters get paid. It's just a blip on the screen of AI will probably be making better music than all of us in 3 or 4 years. And I'm like, it's just not that important. What I think is important is not. I don't know. I don't want to get too.
It's weird, and I catch myself like even talking about AI. I catch myself getting really, like I go down that rabbit hole of what are my kids going to inherit, and then I go, okay, well I'm probably not going to be here. Not that brings me peace, but there's certain things that you cannot do anything about, and the AI thing. It is terrifying to me, but I look at us and I go, well, we are who and how and where we are. And we only we have anything to do with how we got here and where we're going. I mean, that's one of the reasons I go, okay, music's great, but where can I volunteer? What can I, you know?
We're a pretty barbaric species if you think about it. Yes. We have it with all the technology we have and a lot of better things about it. I'm looking around going, I literally called at the behest of a Jewish friend that called my Jewish friends and said, for the most part, all of them had just said, I just want you to know I love you. And if there's anything I can do, because I didn't really realize there's a lot of anti-Semitism. I don't see racism because my kids grew up with playing ball with black friends where they're cooler than them. Yeah. They liked them better. I liked them better. It just wasn't really a thing, but you don't see it all. And we haven't really come that far.
I know, and it's shocking.
The Old Testament to truth, it looks the same. If you look at a street full of angry people, it looks the same as what I read in the Old Testament. Yeah, they're ready to stone someone in the street for how they were born.
Exactly, and I feel like the more we are connected through technology, the more separated we are. It's like we're going backwards.
Yeah.
You know,
social media is the Antichrist. It's the Antichrist.
I had a conversation with somebody at our school who's not there anymore, which is such a bummer because I love him so much. He went to school in Alabama, but we started talking about it, and I said, because I started a program that I really wanted to get off the ground, but it didn't go anywhere, called the Look Up program. Did I ever talk to you about that, Michelle?
I don't know, but I love the name of it.
I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was like, you know how the Live Strong bands, the yellow bands, we had purple bands made, and I held a big thing with all the teachers and all the students in 4th grade and their parents and said, let's start a club and we can even make it, you know, something that is a resume oriented thing, you know, and with officers and make it a real incentive that we don't have our kids on social media as a school until they're 16 or whatever age we agree. And that we really propagate, if we are going to give out the Christ-like award in grade school, why don't we just make it where everybody looks up, you know, look up at trees, look up at the sky, look up at the heavens, just don't look down at this, you know? And it was so great for a minute. Summer came, parents came back, and it was like, you know, they love their kids being distracted while they're distracted, you know? And it's just, It is, and it is the Antichrist. I mean, it is the one thing that separates us that, I don't know.
We were on a bus about 4 years ago when social media was first becoming whatever. Brett and I were on a bus riding with an artist in North Carolina. And there was a group of people, guys in the band, the artist, a couple other writers, me and Brett. And we have social media, and my friend Lisa does post it for us.
Yeah.
And I don't even have my own account. This is a Warner Brothers account. There's a Good Grief, Good God account. And there's some good things that can be had. But
you're talking to like a dinosaur over here. Yeah.
I can tell someone else does yours too. I looked at it. I love that. I'm so happy because.
Yes. My old nanny who became my assistant who does my social media. Perfect, and my kids are like, Mom, you're born in the 1870s.
No, my kids have thanked me for not being on it. Like, oh God, thank you for not telling about, my son hit a home run.
We're getting ready to do some TikTok stuff. I'm not on TikTok. And Levi was like, Mom, you can't go on TikTok. That is so cringy.
It is cringy. So anyway, we're sitting on this bus with this group of creative people, and they're laughing, and they're talking to each other via social media with 3 or 4 other people added on, and they haven't looked up from their phones. And Brett and I are looking at each other like, what the hell is going on here? No one has looked up, but they're enjoying each other. Oh, did you see what he posted? And that's the only time they've looked up to see what someone else posted. And I was like, oh my God, look up. I'm in.
I know. I mean, it terrifies me.
I'll be the captain of the guard with that.
I literally want to become like a some sort of like trail leader, like taking people out on hikes and things. Because I'm just like, dude, you got to get that phone out of your hand.
It's funny because I've discovered, not only discovered hiking, I like drug Michelle. We went with some friends and we hiked rim to rim in the Grand Canyon. We figured out the day before that my friend had booked the wrong hike where we actually had to carry it. We thought the donkeys were going to take our stuff down, but we had to carry these enormous packs.
Oh my gosh.
So she weighs about 90 pounds and the pack was 35. And so,
how did you do it? You had to be like...
I carried like half her stuff. And so my pack's huge. Her pack is still huge on her.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love hiking, but I have no sense of direction. So I'll put my phone in my pocket and put it on silent in case I get lost and I can map myself out of there.
Do you have signal in the bottom of the Grand Canyon? See, that's that's bucket list. I want to take my kids on the Grand Canyon.
No, we did not have signal at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, but we had it further than you would think. I didn't even mess with it. And we brought the phone down just so I could listen to like a podcast at night so that I could go to sleep because I have a terrible habit of watching something while I'm going to sleep. I know that's bad, but it was awesome. Yeah, 3 days. And
only 3 days? You did the whole thing in 3 days?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, you camped over. I didn't realize she never camped ever.
Really?
And we had, so the first night she ever spent in a tent ever was at the bottom. So there was no like running to a hotel.
Yeah.
Because I figured.
Did they set it up for you and stuff?
No, we brought tents. We had it. I mean, we had a guide, but he didn't even set the tent up. And I'm me. I am not Mr.
Yeah.
My dad was Mr. Outdoors hunter guy. And so we carried our own tent and we set it up. And then the first time she was low grade fever mad at me the whole time. Like, I can't believe you got me in this, but it was awesome. But I love hiking. And my kids, the 2 that are still with us, the 19 and 23, and come on, hey, let's go for a hike. I mean, they work out and they sauna and do the cold plunges and they're into all of it. I'm like, let's go hike. It's great for you. Like, I'm not hiking. I'm like, why? You're in the gym.
Yeah.
You'll run, but
my kids are the same way. They're like, where are we going? I'm like, that's not the point. Yeah.
They just don't get it.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm glad it's not just mine.
No, mine are totally the same way.
What
also
are they?
Running. I'll say, I'm going to go out for a run. Why?
Where you run? Yeah.
Where are you going? I'm going around the neighborhood. Why?
I just, I've learned to just like be more of a just a commentator of an influence on their lives now instead of a dictator.
You're an influencer.
Yeah, an influencer on just them, like, just do what they want to do. So I'm glad they love to work out. So we do that. I'm like, you don't like to hike? It's like beautiful out and you're climbing. I'm like, no, we'll just run.
I get a lot of no, just no.
What are they into? What do they like?
Okay, so my Levi, who's 13, does every sport. Loves baseball. Would really love football, but I don't think genetically he's going to be very big. But and basketball, I don't think he's going to be very tall, but he loves it and loves baseball. And then my older son is on a bass fishing team. He and his buddy brought bass fishing.
That's awesome.
Sat with the head of schools and asked if they would support a bass fishing team, which basically means very little.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have a boat. It's like the
boat
most
is
expensive. It's not like buying a baseball bat.
Jude had a friend and they actually talked about it because I'm like, well, by the way, you already play basketball and baseball. You're not, and I'm not buying a bass boat, so I don't know who's thinking.
We did it. We bought the bass boat. He's all in. It takes a different kind. He's the one that poured over the books. You're 8 hours in a boat, whether you're catching or not, and he's built for it.
I don't want to do anything for 8 hours.
Me neither.
Nothing. No. I can't even sleep for 8 hours.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither.
I wish I could.
Yeah. Now he's also always known that he wants to be a marine biologist. He wants to work on coral reefs. I had to get certified in scuba as a 55-year-old, so we could scuba and.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
you loved
it is. But I mean, it's crazy. I do love it. I'm not built for the 100. I'm like, once you get to the 100, you need to get somebody else. I mean, I'm good at 40. I'm good at 60. I'm not going down that far, but. Yeah. But he's always known. It's where he's a badass bass player.
Really? Doesn't care?
I'm like, when girls see a bass player as opposed to a guy in a scuba suit, they're going to go the bass player.
Yeah.
So,
but later, here's the thing. The musician can get the girl. Can't keep the girl. True. You know what I mean?
No, that's true.
They rarely keep the girl. It's like, I had to stop acting like I came home for the very first tour we did, opening for Faith. And I came home with whatever I had brought back with me. And Michelle was like, hey, guess what? I'm not a groupie. I don't care what you do for a living. You're not acting like that. Do your own laundry. I think I complained about my laundry or something. I did my own laundry for about 5 years. And now when she does my laundry, I don't complain at all about that. But
that goes into the blessed,
100%.
Yes.
100%. That's so cool, man. Your kids, I know how much you love them.
They're awesome. I mean, I would have loved anything, honestly, but I hit pay dirt on those two. They're tight. Except for when they hate each other.
By the way, that's necessary too.
Yeah, it is. And they
Brett
work
and I
it out.
Fist fought every day for probably 10 years. Not kidding.
They've not fist fought yet. But I can tell you what, my 13-year-old would take my 16-year-old in like a nanosecond. Brett
was younger than me, even though he looks older than me. And he's like a black belt in Taekwondo or anyway, Brett was always a good fighter, but he was a good fighter. Like he wound up, we did a lot of bar fighting for a period of time, and he would knock guys out bigger than them. But I always thought it was strange that my little brother was like, because I beat him up easily, and then all of a sudden one day I couldn't beat him up easily, and then another day and I couldn't beat him up at all. And I'm like, this is so weird, man. We're teenagers, and I think this kid could kick my ass. And turns out he's a really good fighter.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And we did okay. That's awesome. Yeah, that they have their dynamic.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I mean, I just got to say, you are awesome. And you know what I think about you musically and career-wise and whatever, but you're a great person.
Oh,
just the fact that you're here. We didn't even talk about the Hall of Fame very much, but I'm so proud of you for that. And it's amazing, and it's absolutely deserved. I mean, I'm just, it's just honored. So before we go, I always end with a question, a two-part question for everyone. What is the worst thing that's ever happened to you? And what's the best thing that came out of that?
I mean, I guess I would point to that moment that culminated with breast cancer. And I mean, I had some things along the way. I mean, in the documentary, there was a year in there where I dealt with sexual harassment, but all those things kind of led up to the moment where I felt like I'd been stripped of everything. Like I didn't even recognize my life anymore. I couldn't even figure out where I fit into my own life or what that life was. It was something I had created, and it didn't feel authentic, and I was really lost. But the thing that came out of it, a couple of things. I think the idea that, if you keep putting pain away, if you keep pressing your wounding down to the very, very bottom and just piling everything else on top of it, it just is going to keep coming up like barf, Mm-hmm. And to finally sit and hold it and digest it and get rid of it was a huge factor for me, because I'd always been somebody that took care of everybody before myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I came out of it with was a belief in infinite possibility, that everything I thought I was controlling and creating was hindering me. Mm-hmm. It was keeping me small and unfulfilled.
Let me ask you this, because I don't know when it happened with you, but like in this business, it's very easy to not have this, but you have very real relationships. Like
all of my friends are on my payroll.
But like the Hamiltons, you know, and like your friend Laura Dern. So I don't know her. I've seen her in movies or TV or whatever, but I definitely know her. I could tell in the documentary how much she loved you and how much you loved her. It's not easy to, I mean,
I do believe that God does have a lot of, like you were talking about coincidences, how there are no coincidences. I do believe that God has inserted certain people into my life that are familiar to me in ways I can't explain. And I'm sure you have people like that as well. And now that you've lost Sage, you understand that the veil between consciousnesses is so thin that you've probably known many of the people simultaneously in all of your lives. And I do believe that. And I believe that, I mean, even like talking about Lance, I believe that I probably have known him and he was an insert into this life in order to help me to remember who I was. I believe that Laura has been in all of my life. She's familiar to me in a way that I can't understand. And I have people like my manager. I have people in my life that have been here still with me for like 37 years.
That's unbelievable, by the way.
It is unbelievable.
That doesn't happen ever.
I don't know. I mean,
which one of you is codependent?
It's probably me.
That's amazing, by the way, that you could trust someone.
Do you know Enneagrams?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so like I'm a loyalist, right?
Yeah.
All my relationships.
What number is that?
A 6, I think it is.
I'm a 6 and a 3 or something, or 6.
I'm a 6 and a 3, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, but anyway, I'm a loyalist.
Here's why this doesn't work for me. Okay. The Enneagram, because when they ask you the questions, some of them are based on who you would be instinctually, right? And then others ask you like what you would be now. I've changed and I'm not trying to, it's not a horn tuning thing, but
I totally
worked a lot on changing my instincts for so long. Some of the answers are conflicting because my instinct is to do this, but I would say absolutely not now for that thing. So I'm a little confused, but I am like a 3, 6, 9 or something. It's really odd.
Yeah, no, I haven't dug totally into like all the machinations of it, how you can have a wing, or I don't understand all of it. But I do know I'm a person that I don't want to say keeps, because everybody has free will, but the people in my life that are still here are people that I worked hard to work with because I loved them and I loved how I felt about me around them. I trusted them and they're all still here. And that to me is like the blessing. I think sometimes for artists or people in entertainment or people who are in a field that accrues a lot of money, there's always this feeling of like, I don't trust that person, or what are they after? And that was never me. For me, it was always family, building a family.
It says a lot about both of you, that you and your manager have been together. I mean, it really does say a lot because
he's put up with a lot.
Yeah, and so have you, I'm sure. But the ego comes in. I've seen it all up close, but even when we had managers, I would be, they're not. Ken Levitan, who's literally the greatest, biggest manager of all time that I ever know of. I'm like, he's not doing enough for us. We're drunk jerks without a hit. And
yeah,
I mean, I look back and go, oh my God, I think I've apologized to him like 10 times. Like, hey man, I'm sorry, we were assholes for like a decade.
But it's part of it. I mean, it's part of like what feeds that, because you wouldn't be where I'm at without a ginormous ego. And I understand it. I also have the imposter syndrome. So it's like, while I have this ego that's, oh my God, I'm so great, there's this other part of me that's like, you really are not great. You suck and nobody's buying this. I mean, it's
you really have the imposter syndrome?
Oh, yes.
I thought everyone had it, but I've heard a great quote recently. It's never underestimate a man who overestimates himself.
Oh, I love that.
Which is great.
I love that.
There's a lot of that, and
there are a couple of people that that are well known in the business that I deal with periodically, and I see that, and I go, eventually it catches up.
It's gotta.
It's yeah.
But it's
like running for office.
Yeah. Oh God, running for office. It's got to be. There's a little bit of delusion that you have to have. I'm not quite delusional enough to have gotten past it. Like, I would kind of laugh at myself on stage. We'd be up there and you're just rocking. I'm like, you're not that good, in a funny way.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, come on. And the truth is, God's given me way more than I deserved and in the direction I needed it in, because the truth is, I wouldn't have handled, I'd be dead. If our artist career had worked. I really believe I would have. I needed the ego reduction right when I got it. And when I say reduction, it wasn't like disappearance, it was reduction. And as life goes on and more and more and more, and you just kind of have to go apologize to like anyone I met in the 90s, I'm sorry. And kind of move on with life, and you grow. And I don't think I was the worst person in the world, but I definitely.
You were, you couldn't have not and be who you are now.
No, but there were things about myself that when you said I didn't like who I was when you were with Lance, I think everyone's got a period, and you go, I just became something when I was drinking and using that I was not comfortable with. This is not, you're a liar. You're a piece of trash. And it's kind of hard to be who God wants you to be when you're constantly inebriated on anything.
But inebriated or ego, like I look at certain politicians and I go, what's the difference in being inebriated and buying into your own shit or hiding under your own shit or feeding a whole,
Hey, we work in an industry full of people drunk on their own Kool-Aid.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an easy thing to do. And
I will tell you one thing. I didn't drink my own Kool-Aid, but I also didn't enjoy it as much as I could have because I didn't drink my own Kool-Aid.
Makes you who you are, though. You never came off like I guess I didn't realize, but I met you in the 90s briefly, and you're one of those people that I wish I had gotten to spend more time with as things went along. You're like, damn, but you are awesome in like every way. I'm proud to be your friend. I'm so proud of you. I love your music. I always have. You're influential beyond what you think and beyond what you're going to be comfortable with. So
I know I can't. Yeah.
I can't do anything for you except for the imposter syndrome. You got to get rid of that. You're not an imposter.
With compliments. I'm like, yeah.
I'm an imposter. Believe me. You can get rid of that one. I mean, you can. The rest of them I'll let you sit with. But yeah.
Well, I'm really honored to be here, and I think what you're doing is monumental, and I will carry this around with me for a long time.
You're a great human being. I love you. Thank you.
I love you too.
All righty. Gosh.
That was so good.
Oh, tuning in to the Good Grief, Good God show. As always, the Good Grief, Good God show is brought to you in loving memory of Sage Michael.